So the other day, I had an exclusive that revealed a new Jurassic movie is on the way, but within that video and my Twitter post, I see the same comment after same comment questioning where the franchise goes after Rebirth. I've already made 3 videos talking about that specific topic, so here's hoping that YouTube's inconsistent algorithm will finally push this video to those audiences that are asking the same question, so that they can stop asking it and stop being confused. So what we're going to do here today is discuss where Rebirth left off and what its loose ends are and how the story can naturally progress into a sequel in 3 years' time. So once you're sat back, relaxed, and got your snacks at the ready, it's time to explain what the sequel to Jurassic World Rebirth could be. Jurassic World Rebirth ended off with the main cast escaping from the island of Isla Saint Hubert, or so we think. With them is little Dolores the Equilops, also on the same journey. The mutants are still alive, and the island hasn't been explored as much as we thought, with possibly treacherous journeys ahead of them with big pharma companies ready to pounce as well. So where do we begin? Let's start off with the mutants. Remember how Universal made them the face of Rebirth? They were in the trailers, the posters, the toys, they were everywhere. The entire pre-release campaign gave the impressions that mutants were going to be the central threat of the movie. But when we actually saw the film, the reality was pretty different. The mutants had their moments for sure, but they were more like sideshow actions rather than the main focus. They pretty much only popped up right at the very end of the movie, but they never really dominated the narrative the way that the Indominus Rex, Scorpius Rex or Indoraptor did back in Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom and Camp Cretaceous. And fans certainly noticed this. Some people actually like the restraint, keeping them mysterious, not blowing everything in one film. To an extent, I am too on that side. But the reality is, a lot of others felt shortchanged. It's the classic expectation versus delivery problem. Universal hyped us up for one movie, but delivered another. For me, I think that was intentional. I don't believe that the mutants were designed to peak in Rebirth, but it certainly wasn't intentionally done for the sake of a sequel. This was confirmed by the director of the movie. However, this is still yet a great opportunity. So where can the sequel go? Based on the insider information that I've gotten just a few days ago, the next film isn't just going to be about a continuation of Rebirth. It's supposed to escalate things in a familiar way. And when you think about it, that makes sense. We've had dinosaurs in the wild, we've had companies like Biosyn trying to exploit them, and now Rebirth, we've seen the genetic boundaries being crossed. What's the next logical step, but also keeping it familiar? Well, one possibility is that it looks like the next movie could actually focus on governments stepping in. Instead of this being about one shady corporation messing with DNA, now we're talking about the entire nation starting to take dinosaurs and deciding what's more and what's not, and even the mutants. We're moving on from corporate greed into global politics, which also correlates with the current state of the world right now, which again fits in very well with a message that Universal must have for every Jurassic movie. And if you can imagine it, just have different governments creating task forces, weaponizing dinosaurs, or even outright banning them and trying to exterminate them completely. The dinosaurs would no longer just be a containment problem, they'd be a political one. And that's where the mutants fit in perfectly, because if normal dinosaurs are already the global problem, then mutants are the wild card. They're unpredictable, they don't follow the rules of nature, and they represent the next stage of chaos. But why hype them up so much in Rebirth only to hold them back? Well, if you think about it, Universal now has this ace up their sleeve. Fans were teased, but they didn't get the full payoff. That means the sequel has the perfect opportunity to finally unleash them in full force. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Instead of being side characters, the mutants could become the central threat of the story, just like hybrids. The creatures that force governments to act because of leaks about inhumane genetic experimentation going wrong. We've already seen how terrifying genetically altered dinosaurs can be, going back to the Indominus, Scorpius, and even the Indoraptor, but those were still rooted in dinosaur DNA. The mutants in Rebirth were something else. They pushed past that line. Imagine a movie where there are no longer experiments in the shadows, but active predators spreading uncontrollably. It also gives Universal a way to keep things fresh. After 7 movies with dinosaurs, how do you make the 7th one feel different? You evolve the threat. You make it clear that we're not just talking about prehistoric animals anymore, we're talking about man-made monsters that don't belong anywhere in nature. Now don't get me wrong, I know there's a massive audience out there who probably won't like something like that, myself included, but it seems like the only natural progression at this stage. If we step back and look at the franchise as a whole, this direction does start to make a lot of sense. The original Jurassic Park was about the dangers of cloning dinosaurs for entertainment. The Lost World expanded that into corporate greed. Jurassic Park 3 was about survival. Then the Jurassic World trilogy took us into hybrid territory and corporate warfare. Now with the New Era saga starting, the question is, what's left? The answer seems clear. It's about control. Who controls these creatures? Who gets to decide their fate? And what happens when governments start to step in? But here's the thing. Rebirth didn't just end with our characters sailing away, it left a whole trail of other loose ends that could explode into an even bigger story than just mutants. First up, we have The Cure. Remember how the whole central plot of Rebirth was about the potential cure for heart disease? We never actually got confirmation that this cure works. They escaped with the formula, yes, but was it truly stable? Was it ready to save lives? Or was it just another ticking time bomb, waiting to backfire? That's a thread Universal can easily pull into the sequel, because if the cure doesn't work the way that they think it does, or has side effects, that suddenly drags our characters right back into the mess to find a cure for the cure. And then we have Dolores. Yeah, the little Aquilops who survived the island and ended up with our main cast. On the surface, that feels like a cute way of showing hope. Life moving on, right? But when you dig a little deeper, that might not be such a good thing. If the sequel really does go to the route of introducing the DX virus from Michael Crichton's novel, then Dolores could literally be the carrier for that. Think about it, she's a small, innocent creature unknowingly carrying a genetic flaw, or worse, a pathogen. These dinosaurs on this island were supposed to be the worst of the worst after all, and since Dolores looks like a normal Aquilops, then what if she was left behind on this island because she actually has a very dangerous pathogen? By bringing her to the mainland, the heroes may have just accidentally opened Pandora's box, spreading something way deadlier than any dinosaur before her. That would be the ultimate payoff for such a small but meaningful detail. And who knows, maybe the cure to this DX virus could be within the mutant DNA. But let's also not forget about Parker Genix. This was a big company in this world that we actually never knew about before Rebirth. And in Rebirth, they took a massive hit, especially with the loss of Martin dying and then the cure being open sourced. From a business perspective, that's brutal. They lost their chance to monopolize the cure, they lost one of their key leaders, and they lost control of the entire situation. If you think that they're just going to walk away quietly, you haven't watched this franchise enough. Corporations in this franchise don't go down without a fight, and that sets up a very real possibility that Parker Genix becomes the big antagonist in Jurassic 8. Whether it's through sending teams back to the island to reclaim assets, or outright targeting Zora and her allies, they're still in this game. So any of these loose ends could easily set up a story for the sequel to Jurassic World Rebirth. There's not many alleys of expansion here, but it's certainly enough to stop the "where does the franchise go from here" comments being made online. But now let's talk about the timeline, because this gives us a very good insight as to when the movie takes place. Jurassic 8 is set to release in June of 2028 according to early insider information, and here's where the stars align. Rebirth was also set in 2028, so it makes perfect sense to have the sequel take place right after, or at least within the same time frame. If Universal is trying to keep the story grounded and keep audiences emotionally connected, jumping too far ahead again wouldn't really make too much sense, especially for story continuation, because now you're questioning things that happened within those 3 years if they do set it 3 years after Rebirth. So the safest bet is that Jurassic 8 will pick up directly after Rebirth, and that would also allow the movie to return back to releasing in the same year that it takes place. For example, Jurassic World takes place in 2015, Fallen Kingdom in 2018, and Dominion in 2022. But Rebirth releasing in 2025 takes place in 2028. Jurassic 8 could easily realign this, and that opens the door for a really strong opening sequence. Just imagine it follows directly after Rebirth. Our survivors think they've escaped, sailing towards the mainland, but the waters surrounding Ile Saint-Hubert, as you and I know, aren't safe. You've got Spinosauruses on the shores and swimming around, and Mosasaurus also in the depths working together. It would be the perfect cold open, throwing the characters straight back into danger before the story even properly begins. That way, the movie wastes no time reminding us survival isn't guaranteed, and I see loads of people also asking this same question. Where are these creatures when the humans were escaping at the end of the movie? So the opening of Jurassic 8 could also answer that. But what is the most likely story? Let's get to the point here. Well, for me, I see 2 main possibilities. The first one is the most obvious DX virus arc. This is something fans of the original Jurassic Park novels will know about, and is honestly a goldmine for Universal. I'm amazed that hasn't even been done before already. The DX virus is a genetic disease that spreads from dinosaurs to humans, and if Dolores really is carrying something in her DNA, whether it's intentional or not, then bringing her to the mainland is the spark that sets it all off. That is chaos theory in motion once again. Suddenly, dinosaurs aren't just containment issues, they're a biological crisis. People start dying, governments panic, and the only solution lies in the mutants themselves, because their unnatural DNA may be the only thing capable of countering the virus. That would finally give the mutants a true purpose, not just being monsters, but reluctant saviors of humanity. And then the second possibility is the Parker-Genix retaliation arc. In this storyline, the cure is open sourced, which means Parker-Genix can't profit from it. That kind of financial blow isn't something that they'll just accept. So what do? They send teams out, either to reclaim their research or to wipe out the people who ruined their plan. That means hunting Zora and Henry across the Central America where dinosaurs are still comfortably living, or even returning to the island to weaponize what's left. And in doing so, they may unleash the mutants on a scale we haven't seen before. Imagine mutants making it to the mainland, not by accident, but because Parker-Genix intentionally smuggled them out as part of their retaliation. That ties the human and dinosaur conflicts together beautifully. Personally, I think both of these stories could work. The DX virus route gives us a fresh threat that ties directly into Jurassic lore, and then the Parker-Genix route keeps the corporate villain theme alive while finally giving the mutants the spotlight. But whichever direction they go in, one thing is clear. Rebirth didn't close the book, it was still left open just enough to continue. For all of Kep's comments about not knowing where to take the franchise after Dominion, which is absurd, the reality is Rebirth left more possibilities on the table than some people are actually realizing. Mutants alive, cures uncertain, corporations angry, and a baby dinosaur potentially carrying a deadly virus? That's not a dead end, that's a playground for the future. And that's why I think Jurassic 8 has the potential to be one of the boldest entries of the franchise yet. So yeah, there's enough to play around with for when it comes to Jurassic 8. I'm interested to see which route they do follow, whether it be any of these or possibly one that we haven't even thought of just yet. But one thing is for sure, they need to make this movie feel connected to the wider franchise and not feel ashamed or embarrassed like Rebirth did. That was the main failing point of the movie to most people. But either way, I'm interested to know what you guys think. How will this story progress, and what is something you want to see in Jurassic 8? Let me know down in the comments. And if you have nothing to say, then just comment a dinosaur emoji for the sake of engagement and help the channel out just that little bit more. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe for your daily dose of Jurassic content here on YouTube. But most importantly, make sure you're all staying safe out there, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye. Hey, did you enjoy the video? Well, why not leave a like and subscribe for more Jurassic content? I appreciate every single one of you for reaching this point into the video and supporting me this far. If you wish to support me even further, then feel free to head on down to the description where you can find links to donate, my Patreon, and you can also press that join button to become a member here on YouTube and gain access to some awesome emojis. A massive thank you to all of the YouTube members for this month, as well as the amazing fans over on Patreon too. Your extra bit of support really goes a long way. But for now, I wish you a great rest of your day.